Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the William Bonney podcast. Apologies, I've got to say first of all, apologies for not doing one last week. Many things got in the way, life being one of them. You may be able to hear I'm a little bit ill this week. I've got a stinking cold, but I thought I'd still get something out there for you to stop this from dying in its tracks. So how is everyone? What's going on? It's been nearly 3 years since I started doing these podcasts now. I think it's something like November the 19th. I recorded the first one. We all know now, it's obviously because of Matt Price come around to speak to me, and it just made me want to kind of diarise my time in prison. And I was actually listening to it again the other day. I work in a commercial laundry with a lot of time to kill, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately. And I thought, weirdly, why not just throw my own one on and just listen all the way through. I normally have a listen to each episode as I record it and kind of send it out to the world. I have a quick listen just to make sure the sounds all okay and it's not all fucked up. I don't normally sit there listening to my own voice, but it was actually quite entertaining, and there's a lot of stuff I'd forgotten about in there. It's a good little series. I like it a lot. I'm very proud of it. The reason I recorded it and put it all out there is just because, it's an interesting story, and I just thought that, people, may want to listen to it. And I've never done any promotion on it. I've never spent any money on adverts or anything like that. The channel's just grown completely naturally over the last 3 years, with it just popping up on people's, recommended views on YouTube. And I still get comments now of people sort of stumbling across it and listening to everything. So thank you very much if you have commented recently. And I hope you're enjoying it. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about today, I wanted to get stuck into, was HMP Exeter. Why are conditions so bad at HMP Exeter? Not only right now, during this kind of global pandemic, but also just in general. Why are things so bad at HMP Exeter? Now, I've got listeners who have got loved ones in there right now, or had loved ones in there recently. We've got listeners who have obviously been through the prison system and have been there yourself, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. But then you've also got a bunch of listeners who listen to this for a bit of insight and have never had anything to do with crime. So this is for you, really. This is kind of just explaining, how and why things are so bad at Exeter, and they're unlikely to get any better. And we'll explain why. So HMP Exeter is a Victorian prison. It was built in the sort of mid-1800s, something like that. It's plonked right in the middle of Exeter. It's just across the road from Exeter Central train station. It's limited in its capacity to be able to grow and expand because of its situation right in the middle of town. Obviously, just the other side of the walls, you've got main roads, you've got houses, you've got roads, you've got real limitations on how far you can sort of grow and expand the footprint of the prison to try and get better facilities inside. Obviously, it was built back in a time when prison wasn't really the punishment. You were sent to prison back at that time to await your sentence and await what punishment was going to be dished out to you. So prisons were never designed to hold people for a huge amount of times. They were more designed to just keep you locked away until the weeks and months went by when a judge worked out what to do with you, and that would either be, your punishment then would be, going to a workhouse, getting sent abroad, getting hung. Very few people would actually spend their time rotting in a prison cell, not unless you'd done something quite bad by then. But then obviously as all these different punishments kind of got stopped and abolished and swept under the carpet, prison was just left as the only sort of viable alternative as a punishment for people. So people ended up getting thrown in prison and just kind of left and forgotten about when prison was never really designed for that in the first place. And the thing about HMP Exeter is that it's all the cells were designed to be single cells. If you look on the internet right now, it will tell you there's something like 500 odd, maybe 550 capacity. I remember when I was last in Exeter, and in the middle of the wings, you've got the main central office, and you'll have what they call the roll board. and on there will have all the numbers from all the wings, and I can regularly remember it being over 600 all the time. I don't know what it's like now. I can't imagine it being any better, but I don't think it's anywhere near the 500 capacity that the internet will tell you it's at. HMP Exeter is what you call a Category B remand prison. Now, a remand prison is somewhere you go when you're awaiting sentence. So when you get arrested, and the judge doesn't see that you're fit enough to return back to court on your own steam, or your crime was serious enough that they want to send you to prison straight away, you'll get sent somewhere called HMP Exeter if you're in the southwest. This is a remand prison, and like I say, that's where you'll be held until the judge has a chance to sentence you. If you're coming in as a sentenced prisoner, then you'll be shipped out fairly quickly to what they call a prison that will be in the local area normally, but will be more set up for your sentence. Now, people are categorised based on their sentence and their crime. I know someone in the comments has asked me to explain about the categories a little bit more. Now, the term categories is sometimes shortened down to CAT, so I'll be talking about a B CAT prison or a D CAT prison, something like that. The CAT stands for category. Now, A being the more serious end of the scale, and then going down to D, where you're in open conditions. So nearly every remand prison will normally be a B CAT prison, just to kind of all prisoners come in when you get sentenced as a B CAT, and then you get recategorised quite quickly based on your sentence. So you'll normally always go into a remand prison being a B CAT, and then you'll get moved down to a C CAT, and you'll get moved off to a C CAT prison. The categorisation has a lot to do with how much time you spend out of your cell, the courses that will be on in that prison. It's also got a lot to do with the security as well. So when I was in a DCAT wing in Dartmoor, I was going out to work, I had my own phone, some of the lads had their own car down there. You know, it was a real not luxury, but really relaxed circumstances down there. So you had a lot of luxuries that you could have had offered to you that you wouldn't have had in a Cat C, the rest of the Cat C estate at Dartmoor. But also, you know, it's a lot better than being in a B Cat such as Exeter. Now, if you get something like a 7, 8, 9, 10, you're in for armed robbery or murder, something like this, then you may quickly see yourself staying as a B Cat, or maybe even going up to an A Cat. Category A prisons are normally sort of for celebrities, gangsters, big-time drug dealers, like I say, big-time armed robbers, violent offenders, things like this. People that they need a little bit more security for. So you'll find yourself getting shipped off to an ACAT prison. Now, there is worse than that. So a lot of these kind of, you know, celebrity terrorists and things like this, a lot of the IRA boys, or, you know, even really, really bad crooks can end up in what they call a double ACAT. Now, I know in Belmarsh, there's a double ACAT wing within the ACAT estate, where you find a lot of really serious terrorists and criminals end up. So yeah, it's not only can you have a DCAT within a CCAT, but you can also have a double ACAT within an ACAT prison as well. So conditions can be tighter within the prison, and they can also be more lax as well. So back to HMP Exeter. Like I say, it's a BCAT remand prison. You'll normally end up, for the whole of the southwest, that's normally where you end up going. Most prisons, most counties will have a local remand jail that they'll send people to. But why are conditions so bad in there at the minute? Now, like I say, the footprint can't expand very much. You can't really build new wings. You can't really make any more of the facilities they have there. And also the facilities they have are really overcrowded. Nearly every cell there is a double cell. Someone mentioned in comments previously that if you wanted to get yourself in a single cell, what you have to do is you're going through reception. You have to tell them that you're a bit dangerous and a little bit unpredictable. And if you're going into a double cell with someone, you're likely to hurt them. They will ask you that question: have you ever hurt a cellmate before, or are you likely to hurt somebody if we put you in a cell with them? And most people say no, you know. But if you tell them yes, I'm likely to hurt them, I'm unstable, and you know, I've beaten up every cellmate I've ever had, then what they'll do is they'll give you a red cell card, and that means that you bite, and they'll keep you on your own for most of the time. You're also supposed to have a single cell, or you're supposed to be in with a non-smoker. If you don't smoke, And this was back when they used to do smoking packs and things. It's all kind of vape sticks now. But if you told them you don't smoke, they would always try on paper to put you in a cell with a non-smoker, so that you would obviously not be contaminating each other. But in reality, they just throw you in wherever they can, and they don't really give a shit. Now, I've been through HMP Exeter quite a few times now. I was in and out of prison, like a lot of you are aware, for most of the 2000s, between 2000 and 2008. And every time you go back into prison, you have to start your journey at HMP Exeter. So I went through there about 4 or 5 times, possibly even more. And I got to know the staff quite well, and obviously I got to know the routine very well too. It's not a routine that I enjoyed. I much prefer the routine at Dartmoor and most other prisons, to be honest. And I'll just let you know kind of why that is. So at most other prisons, say Dartmoor for example, you get association almost every night and twice at the weekends. Now, association is just basically time out of your cell where you can go and they open your door, you can go and use the showers, you can go and play pool, you can go and sort of, like I said, associate with other criminals, with some of your friends. You can watch films and watch TV if you want to, or you can just fuck about and, like I say, spend some downtime with your friends. In HMP Exeter, you don't get association very often at all. I always remember it would be one evening a week, which is next to nothing, and you had to come out of your cell. You couldn't just sort of stand there with your cell open and wander around the landings, sort of chatting to your mates and things. You had to come out. If you were coming out, you came out of your cell, you locked the door, and you had to spend between like 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock out of your cell then, which sounds like it's, why would I be complaining about that? But not all the time you want to spend all of that time out. Remember, you're around crooks and criminals and things. Sometimes you just want to go and get your phone call and go back to your cell. Sometimes you just want to go and get your shower and go back to your cell. You don't want to be around all the hustle and bustle and noise and all the rest of it. So sometimes, it's awkward having to just get out your cell and then go and sit with people you don't want to be with for all that time. As soon as you get out of Exeter, you go to Dartmoor and you've got association every night. They kick your cell door open and you can just do what you want. You don't have to go downstairs. You don't have to do anything. You can just sit in your cell with your mates if you want to and have a coffee. It's a lot more relaxed. And like I say, even though Dartmoor was a C-Cat prison, after being in the tight conditions of Exeter, it would always feel like it was like going to an open prison, going down to Dartmoor. I really used to look forward to getting out of Exeter. Another thing that makes it difficult is exercise and actual time out of your cell on a normal day. So exercise would normally happen about 10 o'clock every morning. You'd hear the staff shout exercise, and then they'd come round door to door, open up your flap, see if you want exercise, or you'd have to press your bell to get them to come and open your door to see if they don't let you out. And then everyone just cruises out then. You see this mass exodus of everyone going out through A wing, I think it was. Oh no, you had to come out of A wing and go on to C wing, and out of C wing door at the end of the wing, go past the medical block, and then up to the exercise yard. Now that's one of the good things that Exeter does have, and it has a bit of space that you can walk around. It's not a huge amount of space, but you get a loop at the back there, and you can just go and walk around. Everyone walks around anti-clockwise for some reason. You see people suddenly having in-depth chats with their mates that they might not have seen for a little while, maybe trying to organise what they say on their court case, that sort of thing. You'll have groups of offenders who have known each other for years, sort of hanging around in big groups of sort of 10 or 20. They may know each other from the outside, they may know each other just from being inside so often. You do find that when I was first at Exeter, I'd always be sitting by myself, sort of in a corner of the exercise yard, trying not to stand out too much. But after you've been there a while, and after you've been coming in and out a lot, it's like anywhere else. It's like going back to an old workplace after you've been away for a couple of years. You look around and a lot of faces are changed, but you've still got a few of the old familiars that you can go and talk to. And just because you've been in and out of prison a few times, it's kind of like people just, they will talk to you just because they recognise your face. So you start to make friends with people, some of the older lags and some of the more regular faces quite easily. Now when it's sunny, sitting out in the exercise yard for a bit is a really welcome break from the the confines of your cell. But it can get really hot in HMP Exeter. And this is another one of the problems it has, is because it's not built for sort of ventilation or, getting the air moving, that sort of thing. If the wind is on the other side of the wing and kind of blowing on the other side of the wing, then you'll feel nothing on your side. You might, for a few days, you might just have dead air, really stale, musty kind of smell. You've got to remember that prison has a smell about it, and it's just a kind of dirty, kind of rotten smell. And you can end up smelling like it. You don't realise you end up smelling like it. And it's one of the reasons you need to keep your cell clean and fresh, just because it is so difficult just to try to keep everything sort of nice smelling while you're in prison, especially if you're living with somebody else, someone who may not have the same philosophy of you as you do about sort of keeping clean. I remember, I think it was back in sort of 2003, 2004, something like that. They had a sit-down protest outside because it was so hot. It was going through one of our sort of decade heat waves. Once every 10 years or so we have a bit of a freak heat patch in the UK. And a lot of the lads sat out in the exercise yard in the prison and just wouldn't come in. They'd had enough of the heat, and they were just like, fuck it, we're not coming in. And they got in a little bit of trouble. They all went in eventually after a couple of hours or so, but they got in a little bit of trouble. It's nothing that bad. Conditions didn't change. The protest didn't do anything like that. And it was just another kind of slap in the face. There was a rooftop protest once about the conditions in Exeter. I remember being in Dartmoor and seeing on the local news that there was a lad on the roof in HMP Exeter, and the governor even came on telly because the lad up on the roof was saying that people are suffering. There's a 23-hour bang up. There's no courses. There's no this. There's no that. It's really bad. Excuse me. It's really bad in Exeter. And the governor came on the news and said that it wasn't that bad. There's nobody in Exeter doing 23-hour bang up, that sort of thing, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember sitting there thinking, God, there'll be lads in there now on 23-hour bang up watching this and laughing at the guy when he just come out and on TV and just lied. So this isn't a new thing, Exeter being a shithole, but some of the conditions from the pandemic have made it even worse. So, for example, kit change. You used to get kit change on a weekend. I think it'd be like a Saturday, something like that. The staff would come to your cell, and you'd be asked to put all of your kit into your pillow bag, basically. So you get your tracksuit that you don't want to wear. You get your jeans, your t-shirt, shirts, that sort of thing, socks, pants, all of that kind of stuff, and all prison issue stuff. And you go and throw it into your pillowcase, and you take it downstairs. You'll queue up in the middle of the wing, and there'll be a kit store there, and they'll basically count off all the stuff you've brought down. So as you throw it in there, they'll say 2 t-shirts, 1 tracksuit, 2 jumpers, a couple of pants, a couple of socks, and everything you take down there, they'll then replace for clean stuff. Hopefully it'll be in your size. A lot of the time they buy stuff big and then they wash it so much that it ends up just shrinking. So you'll see larges that soon become smalls, mediums that become extra smalls, that sort of thing. So it's horrendous sometimes, some of the kit you have to wear. And you'll often see lads, when they get a new pair of tracksuit bottoms or something like that, they'll just keep them and wash them themselves. You'll see quite a lot of people standing in the shower, showering, wearing clothes, just to kind of wash your clothes out yourself. And then when you go and dry them off on the, either you throw them over the landing to dry them off on the barriers on the landing, or you go and put them on the pipe in your cell to go and dry them off. Now, obviously the staff don't want the wing looking like a Chinese laundry. They don't want all your shit hanging over the landings. But yeah, you'll see a lot of lads kind of washing their own boxers and socks, at least, in the showers themselves. Now, I'll talk about the showers as well in another video. It's always one of those things, like what happens in the prison showers. And washing your clothes is one of them. And but now kit change isn't happening as often as it was. Now, wearing the same kit for a week, the same 2 t-shirts for a week, same tracksuit bottoms for a week. That sounds bad enough as it is, considering you're going to be just sat in your cell rotting. You're not even doing anything. You're just lounging around most of the time, sitting in the same stinking pair of tracksuit bottoms. So, having to get it changed once a week is bad enough. But conditions at the moment, they're not even getting fresh kit every week. They get down to the gym about once a week. When I was there, I used to be gym orderly. Most people would have a session every day if you wanted to do something. Whether it be a circuit, five-a-side football, weight session, volleyball session, that sort of thing. They even did racket sports, so you could go out and play, table tennis or badminton, that sort of thing. Even in the summer, you can go out and they had a little outside tennis court. You used to be able to play tennis outside. But it's just being active and wanting to get out and doing something. But because of the pandemic, a lot of people are only getting their one gym allocation a week, which is all the gym has to give you by sort of law. It's just that one gym allocation, 1 hour a week. So, the lads are obviously suffering, can't get clean kit, can't get ESL. With the pandemic, they're not doing a lot of the courses. So anyone who got sentenced from March 2020 could have been in and out of prison with no qualifications, no rehabilitation, no offending behaviour work, any of that. They've just been locked behind the door, and then they're getting back out into the community again. Now, this is obviously having a massive effect on people's mental health. Now, a lot of people will look at prisoners and just think, this is part of their punishment. They deserve this, surely. And, you hear a lot about prison being too soft. But it starts to have a real effect on you. And if you want to come out of prison as a upstanding member of society, then, you really need to be doing something with the lads in prison, something productive, something good that gets them back on the straight and narrow. Because, just giving these days a perfunctory release date where all you've got to do is just lay on your bed until you get to that date, I promise you, the first few days of it will be torture. But after that, you just get used to laying around, sleeping, watching telly, eating. It won't be it's more of a ball ache than it is a punishment. And it's not going to be doing society any good. Now, like I said, HMP Exeter, I've known a few times in there when it's been, 23-hour bang-ups. We've had lock-ups, we've had, protests, we've had short staff, that sort of thing. I remember one time there was a staff walkout, so they all went and protest outside the prison. And again, it was a hot day, which helped. But all the staff from the prison went and sat outside and were protesting about conditions and the work they have to do. We had a bit of fun with that because obviously we was all locked away. We couldn't come out of the cell. They fed us at the door, so they went. They made basically packed lunches and they brought the trays to the door, and we would be whispering through the door as they're walking past, like "Scab, scab," just taking the piss out of them. It was all senior officers and principal officers and things, all the top brass that were coming around running the wing. We were just whispering "scab" out the door to them while all their comrades were out on strike. It's just really difficult. HMP Exeter is a difficult prison to be in anyway, but with the pandemic restrictions, it's just making things a lot worse. I remember they were looking at selling it off back in the day because again, you can't even really change too much. It's a listed building because it's old and Victorian. They've managed to list it, which means you can't knock walls down, you can't smash the place up and start again. So they're really limited at how they can improve the facilities. They can't grow the facilities. There's nowhere to move, expand the footprint. And the prison was built in a different time. 150 years ago, when crime and everything was way different. So it's an outdated. It needs to be closed down, but they've got no other choice. Now, I remember when I was there, like I say, Tesco were looking at buying it because of the site right in the middle of town. They wanted to knock the prison down and build a Tesco's there. I know that Wimpy Homes were looking at it because they wanted to turn it all into flats and things. Again, because it's a prime location. I know Dartmoor's closing. I might do a video about Dartmoor closing soon because that was my favourite prison. And they're looking at turning that into a hotel. That would be fantastic. I really do want to go up there and do a video around Dartmoor because I really did love it up there. And weirdly, perversely, that was the prison I always wanted to go to. So that was my choice. But yeah, HMP Exeter, it's kind of bound and tied by its own conditions. It's never going to get any better. The more prisoners they keep squeezing in there, the more of a rough time they're going to have. Like I say, from what I'm hearing from people who listen to this, who've got family members in there right now, it sounds like hell. It really does. Now, I know obviously I missed the podcast last week, so again I apologise. Like I say, life got in the way a little bit. And in all the other the other two podcasts we've done, the weekly podcast, we've had a little look about what's in the world and what's going on in the news and things. Now, one case that I don't know if any of you were interested in watching, but that Gabby Petito case, the story of a YouTuber and her fiance who decided to drop everything and go and travel across America to create content and live their best life, and it all went spiraling out of control. She ended up dead in the middle of nowhere. He came back to his family without her, and then as soon as her body went, as soon as her family reported her missing, he did a runner. There was a massive police search. The FBI got involved, and there was all sorts of rumor and speculation that he was hiding in the mountains, and he was this and he was that, and even Dog the Bounty Hunter got involved. It really captured my imagination. I was coming home from work and putting it on YouTube and watching the news live as they searched the Everglades for him. His body was found last week, and so the park was reopened, and his parents went into the Everglades to look for him, and they found his bag and his eaten remains straight away. So it looks like a fairly open and shut case of he killed her on the road. He killed his girlfriend on the road, and then he went into the Everglades and killed himself somehow. But it's been like a month since they've been looking for his body. I think he was underwater. I think it had flooded the region he was in, and it flooded, and they found skeletal remains. So that was kind of, I wanted to kind of like draw a bow under that. It's we have been talking about it, so that was something that, like I say, interested me. YouTubers gone missing, and then both turning up dead. Looks like he had enough of it, enough of life, and took her out and took him with her. Now, obviously, male violence against women has been a lot in the news lately. Everything from the policeman who killed the lady in the London Park, and obviously everything else going on in the news at the moment. There's been an app coming out that you can help women sort of getting home safely and stuff, or you can shake the phone and it suddenly calls the police and things. And there was a lot in the news this week about drug spiking as well, drink spiking, and especially in my local area, because I live in Cornwall, down in the southwest of the UK, and drink spiking has been a bit of a problem around here. We've got obviously some student communities, and getting a lot of obviously attacks in clubs and things because of drink spiking, and even needle stabbing now. So they're stabbing people with a needle to sort of spike them, and it's horrendous. And it just made me think that possibly the way that we could combat this, because the guy from the nightclub was sat there going, "There's very little we can do." You can search people all day, but I can 100% guarantee you, if someone's the type of person that's going to smuggle, I don't know, Rohypnol into a club so that they can spike someone, then they're going to be hiding it fairly well. They're going to be hiding it and secreting it in places that you're not going to do a pat-down search. So you can search people all you want, but if someone wants to take something into a club, they're going to do it. My best guess would be to put really good cameras everywhere in the club, so that if anybody gets spiked, then at least they've got it on camera that you've been spiked, and they can sort of backtrack and find the person who's done it that way. But also, maybe what about an idea of like taking almost Costa-style cups into nightclubs? So you've just got a plastic cup with a lid on it and a straw, and then you just hand it to the barman, and they fill it up with whatever drink you want, and then you kind of just go back to drinking. It's good for the environment. You can have them sparkly and shit, and everyone has their own plastic cup, basically, you take out to the club. Everyone does it for, coffee, so I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to, just take your own cup out drinking with you that can't be tampered with. I don't know. There's lots of questions. It's a complex problem, but I think we will get to the bottom of it quite quickly. Now, for the long-term listeners of the podcast, you'll be happy to know that the book is coming along. I'm putting more and more work into it. It's difficult. I'm not a writer. I'm doing my best. I'm getting more and more of it on paper, and it should be out. It's going to have a lot more detail than the Diary of an Armed Robber podcast. It's going to have a lot more of my early life in there, so you have a bit more of the reasoning into why I became the fuck up that I did. It'll be a whole lot more obvious as to why I made the decisions I did as a kid, and it's just difficult. I mean, I'll give you for example. This week I found out that I got some news that had been held back from me for a long time. So my dad died when I was 9. He died of cancer, and obviously I don't remember too much of it. As a kid, you kind of, you only know little bits of what was going on at the time. But I found out today recently from family members that while my dad was dying of cancer, my mum was hassling him to go out and get a job so that he could be sending more money to her. Now, I know that when my dad was on his deathbed, and he was literally, the day he died, the whole family was lying around him. They were sort of sitting around him. And my mum went to go and held his hand while he was dying, and he pulled his hand away. One of his dying wishes is that he pulled his hand away from my mum. And there was a whole load of reasons why he could have done that. I'd never fully understood it. I knew they didn't get on too well. But that made my mum distraught. She carried that with her for most of her life. They'd been divorced for a little while by the time that happened, maybe about 5 years or so. So it wasn't something, they weren't breaking up or anything. But I'd found that my mum had been pressuring my dad while he was terminally ill to get a job. And that's why, I had little to do with my dad's family, because they hated her. And, circumstances and things. But, so I've had that to deal with a little bit. And obviously, that will get added into the book and stuff, and all this kind of trauma and shit. And toxic trauma is terrible when you're a kid. It has real effects on you, like a stone being thrown into a pond. It has massive ripples and effects later on in life, in all areas of your life, really. The book's still coming. I'm still working on it. Don't worry. I hope to have had it finished by the end of this year, but it's not something that I'm going to be able to get out. It's tough. It really is tough doing it well. I've also had someone contact me about doing some mentoring. Hopefully putting me in contact with someone who's looking to, they need help with mentoring young offenders and people like me who may be going off track. So that's ultimately what I want to do. That's what I want. I feel like I'm going to be able to give back in the best way. Would be to go and help share my experiences. Now, I was waiting in town the other day. I think it was like a Saturday or a Sunday or something like that. And it was coming sort of about 5-6 o'clock-ish. And there was a large group of kids outside of a shop in town. And when I say large group, I'm talking about sort of like maybe 20 or so. All sort of mid-teens. They looked about sort of 14, 15, something like that. And they were just hanging around intimidatingly outside this shop. And I remember the shopkeeper was talking to one of the other sort of shop staff about, if they come in, or if they do this, or if they do that, then just let me know. And it just really made me think that, just a group of young kids can suddenly sort of hold a town to ransom, or, just make people's lives really difficult. And it's difficult to kind of, I'm nearly 40 now. So what real good would I have? Am I the kind of person that could go out to that group and just be like, yo, listen up, kids. You need to kind of start doing something more productive with your time than hanging around outside shops and things like this. Now, to them, they're being the coolest kids in the world. They don't see it as what they're doing as being lame or fucking boring. They're hanging out with their mates. You can feel that little bit of power that you have as a group. Like, genuinely, when you see adults looking at you in a certain way and things. Now, I remember when I first started working, so how old was I? I must have been about 28. And I moved away from sort of tracksuits and hoodies, because that used to be my my office wear for drug dealing. Tracksuits, hoodies, Nike t-shirts, that sort of thing. That's all I ever wore. Trainers, headphones on, looking aggressive. And when I started working and I had to wear a suit and tie, I just remember the different way that people used to approach me and talk to me. And it was like I was a different person. I vividly remember the first time that an old man came up to speak to me. He asked me what the time was, and we stood up at the train station, and he came over to me and he asked me the time, and he kind of made some sort of small talk about the train being late or something. And this was a completely new experience to me, because I'd always been that youth. I'd always been that unapproachable, hood up, baggy clothes, a bit of a scowl on my face. And I'd always enjoyed the little bit of power that gave you. it kept people away. You looked mean, and it gives you power like a battery by seeing people cower away from you. But then also, I'd never had an experience like an old man coming up and asking me the time and having a chat with me. Because I was in a suit and tie, he felt like he could approach me, and he felt like he could actually talk to me. And, for once he wasn't judging me based on how I looked. Well, he was judging me based on how I looked, but he was judging me, positively rather than negatively. And, so much of that experience with the kids outside the shop tied into sort of what I was feeling. They're playing a role. They're just doing what they feel is cool or, badass at the time. But they may not be bad kids. But, I'm not a professional in this. I don't know. How can I bridge the gap between now and then, and hopefully try and get some of those kids to stay away from doing what I was doing? So what I might do is, again, I'm going to have to approach some people who do this, because there's bound to be tons of people out there right now who are good at this and are doing it. So I'm going to spend a bit more time this week finding out more about mentoring and dealing with these little fuckers. And, even if we can try and save one of them or just steer someone the right way, then we might be doing something positive. All right, so thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for putting up with this. Thank you for tuning in again. I know the people who listen right now are the ones who truly support this podcast. So thank you very much for your time. I will reply to any comments that you write, and I do read them all. Thank you very much. Do all the YouTube stuff, like, share, subscribe, tell your mum about it. Thank you very much. Speak to you next week. Cheers now. Bye-bye.